If you happen to find the achiote mix, the annatto marinade mix in a different format than the brick that I have right here, feel free to use it. There's very different versions of it. There's a paste, and there's also just kind of like the sauce that is already made. And so if you happen to find that in any jewel Pete's, any store near you that will carry something like this, feel free to buy it and work with it. Obviously, this is going to be, we're going to have to add some liquid onto it. So if you're using just kind of like the liquid, the sauce version of it, feel free to take out some of the liquid that we're going to be adding, which in this case, a lot of the density is going to come from oil. So we're going to be using olive oil today. Feel free to maybe use something else, a different type of oil, or maybe reduce the amount of oil that you would be using. Maybe instead of using a 1/4 cup, you can use maybe like 1/8 of a cup if you're using a liquid version. And if you're using the paste, maybe you can also just add 1/8 of a cup to the mix. So traditionally, this recipe, you will be, if you ever walk down the streets of any Mexico City, Guadalajara, any places like any Mexican big cities, you will see this type of taco, this type of protein on a roast, on a vertical roast, just like you would see a gyro. And it's exactly the same as a gyro because it definitely has that kind of influence in it. The al pastor literally means shepherd style. And this recipe came from Turkish and Lebanese immigrants that came to Mexico, specifically the city of Puebla, and brought in lamb on a spit, obviously with very different ingredients. And so as time went on, Mexicans born in Mexico decided to modify the recipe. And so the first thing that they did is modify it from lamb to pork. And the other thing that they did, of course, Mexico being Mexico, is adding spice. So today the spice is going to come in the form of chipotle chilies. I originally bought a can of chipotle chilies with adobo, and today I just have them outside in a different container. But as you can see, if you've ever had chipotle peppers, they're definitely very red. To me personally, they are not super spicy. I think they're smokier than spicy. And so if you don't really have a lot of experience with a lot of spicy ingredients or with spice just in itself, like the different levels of spice, feel free to change the amount of chipotles that you're adding onto this marinade. You can definitely just add one and see how you feel with the spice. If you're like me and you really, really like spice, then feel free to add 3. Today I'm going to be adding 3 just because I really like the spice, but again, feel free to modify it as you see fit. It's definitely not going to change the color of your chicken. It's not going to change the kind of like the moisture of this marinade that we're making. So feel free to change it as you see fit. And then we're just going to be using some really basic ingredients to continue. We're going to be using some garlic cloves, as I said, olive oil, and I also have a red onion right here. So red onion specifically, and this annatto seed, which is this kind of like little creamy seed that grows in the southern states of Mexico, can also be used for another dish that's called cochinita pibil, which is also pork-based, but it's roasted for a very long time, and it's just very different to what we're doing right now, to al pastor tacos. And so we're going to start by putting this together in a blender. The other thing that I wanted to mention, which completely just kind of went over my head, is that we're using this red onion. As you can see, I have a little bit more than half of a medium red onion sliced thin. As you can see, I have them in, I didn't say julienne, but it's very thin strips. And so this I'm going to divide in 2. Originally, I think I had this onion to go inside the marinade, so you would just add it as we're blending it. Today, I'm actually going to divide it in 2. We're going to put half of this into our chicken when we're putting it in the pan, so that it'll also add to the consistency of the chicken as you're eating it. And then the other half, I'm actually going to do a super quick pickling with lime juice that is going to just give a ton of different color to your taco. And it's also bringing a lot of that tropical kind of like citrusy taste to your taco that will very much contrast with the smokiness and kind of like the density of the marinade, which is, it's very flavorful. So the citrus and the onion is just going to lighten that up. So let's start by putting this all in a blender. Let's get started. If anybody has any questions about the ingredients that we're using, please send them to us. In past programs, not with Schaumburg, but in other libraries, I've seen that a lot of people have had trouble finding that specific ingredient. I don't think that Schaumburg, I don't think people in Schaumburg, I don't think you guys will have any trouble finding it, just because I think Schaumburg is a lot more diverse than, let's say, some North Chicago communities. No shade to them, but you know, it's just the population is just very different. So they might not have the same ingredients that we find in other parts of Chicagoland. I myself am from Cicero, so you know, 80%, 90% Hispanic community, and so I'm very used to seeing all these ingredients at any store, really, at any like corner grocery shop. So sometimes when I hear that, maybe like, you know, 5 miles, 10 miles up in different directions, you might not be able to find these kinds of ingredients, but you might be able to find other ingredients from other parts of the country. Where I live now, which is a little bit more west than Cicero, I see a lot more Indian and Pakistani and a lot more different ingredients. And that I definitely would not be able to find in Cicero, for sure. But I also find a lot of other like Southern American ingredients like ají, which is from Peru, and a lot more like different types of corn from Guatemala and Ecuador. So it's also very interesting to see just kind of what gets exported here, depending on where you live. And we're all so close to each other that it's incredible that we have some difficulty finding things. So the last thing, I'm actually going to be adding my olive oil before I forget, before I keep talking about the amazing thing that it is living in Chicago, in the Chicago area. So I'm adding 1/4 of a cup of olive oil here. So if you're using this recipe, you don't necessarily have to fry it in a pan. You can also just use different types of cooking. So my preferred way to make this would be on the grill. It really takes that marinade and chars it up with the chicken, or if you wanted to change it to pork shoulder, it would be perfect. So in this case, I would definitely recommend that if you really like this recipe just on a pan, like fried, pan fried, or seared on the stove, you can also just try to bake it and kind of like try to get some of that charredness by first cooking it in like baking it, and then trying to kind of like put it in the broiler just to get some of that direct heat, or definitely grilling it if you have the option to grill it. Please try it. It really creates kind of a different experience. So you definitely don't have to stick with this recipe. Let's see, we'll chat be available in a few minutes to be finished. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and type the answer right here, and I'm going to be copying and pasting this here as well. So, hi Sunita, thanks for sending us that. I just sent the answer to you. The recipe's also there. So if everybody can see it, if you want to process it, and then the last thing that you see right there is a cup of crushed pineapple. So a little note on this. This marinade you can use as quick as 20 minutes after you put it together. If you, and including the pineapple, If you are leaving it to marinate a little longer, 1 hour, 2 hours, especially with chicken, I would recommend avoiding the pineapple, just because I feel like it really changes the texture of the protein. It's too acidic for just kind of like not really messing with the texture. So I would leave it aside. I would leave it aside and then add it just a couple minutes before you put it in the pan. Or if you wanted to add it specifically while you're putting it in the pan, you can also do that. So I would definitely leave the pineapple for afterward if we're marinating it longer. Today we're gonna add it in just because it is a quick dinner. So I'm gonna add it's a cup of our crushed pineapple. I'm gonna just put the spoon here. And with it, of course, you also get the juice of that crushed pineapple. It's going to be, I just bought a can of fresh pineapple. If you have access to fresh pineapple, if you really, really like pineapple and you really think that you're going to be eating it other than just for these tacos, I would strongly suggest getting fresh pineapple. Who wouldn't, right? I'm actually working on another program on pre-Hispanic drinks, which includes a drink called tepache that is based off of fermented pineapple. And so I'm really into pineapple right now. And just generally in these tacos, the pineapple I feel really, really makes it come together. My mother-in-law is born here. She is of Bohemian descent. She loves these tacos, not this specific, but just al pastor in general. And she agrees with me that the pineapple in there, specifically if she goes to a restaurant and she has these types of tacos, when they add just a slice of fresh pineapple to it on top of a really great hot sauce, it just makes the taco. So if you really have a fresh pineapple to play with, if you really want to go out and buy a pineapple, please try it. And so please feel free to send us more questions. I hope that you can see the answer and the recipe in the Q&A. I'm going to go blend this up real quick and then we're going to mix it up with the chicken. And I'll be right back.
Hey everyone, while Karla is getting that all blended up, I just wanted to make sure we got the issue with the recipes in the chat dealt with. I shared one. I'm hoping you guys can see the chicken al pastor one, but if you guys are having trouble still seeing them, just shoot another thing in the Q&A so we know, and I can try to send some recipes out after the presentation. I can get the list from Karla then. Keep enjoying.
All right, so you can probably see from the screen that my shirt really matches our wonderful marinade right here. I always like to bring up this story from my grandmother. So in Mexico, there's different types of sauces. The most famous one is, of course, mole. This kind of like chile, corn, chocolate flavored sauce that we usually use a lot in weddings. And the whole myth behind mole is that if you have mole and it's really good, it's going to stain your tablecloth or your shirt. It's going to stain something. But if it stained it, that means that you really enjoyed it. And so with al pastor and with cochinita pibil, which is based off of the same ingredient, if you really like it and if you're preparing it with a lot of love, it's going to stain your clothes. So this is why I'm always wearing red when I do these programs. Please be careful when you're making this. Annatto seed is the ingredient that a lot of companies use to make sure that their aged cheddar looks aged, even though they haven't really aged it. And so as you can see, it's a very potent red color. And of course, it also has a ton of flavor. As soon as you see this off the burner, as soon as you smell it, you will know exactly what it's going to taste like. And then of course, if you're adding some char into it, it's just going to taste wonderful. So I have about 1.5 pounds of chicken here. This is more of chicken that has been cut into cubes instead of strips. So I'm just gonna put this into a container, and then I'm gonna mix it with marinade. And of course, if you'd like to change it up, go ahead and use pork. Pork shoulder is perfect for this. I have actually seen some people online kind of try to replicate that vertical spit action with pork shoulder. I actually don't think that it can be done perfectly unless you also have a matching amount, a matching kind of like formula to the fire, kind of like the same as almost like a rotisserie chicken device where you can kind of rotate the spit onto. Let me actually turn this camera around so you can see what it looks like right now. So this is how red it is. I'm just gonna bathe my chicken in it. You're gonna have some leftovers in the sauce, especially if you're cooking under 2 pounds of chicken. But you can use it for another serving. If you want to do it at another weeknight dinner, you can do that. Or if you want to freeze it for a future cookout or just like a future dinner, it can be very easily defrosted and then used again. Those would be the cases where I would definitely recommend skipping the pineapple again. I feel like the pineapple just really tastes better fresh. So I would definitely just skip the pineapple and leaving it for right when you're about to cook. All right, so we're gonna put this in the fridge. This is kind of the amount that I have left over. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's a pretty good amount. So feel free to freeze it and use in the future. So let's transition this over to our drink. We're 20 minutes into this program, and I think we all need a little tequila in our lives. So I'm gonna put this in the fridge. If I'm actually going to get the ingredients copied and pasted onto, if somebody wants to send us a cue so we can answer in the form of a recipe, please feel free to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to post it in the chat, see if everybody can see it, see everyone. And then I'm going to paste this and going to stretch to post it. So hopefully everybody can see the cantarito recipe right now. If you want to process it, I'll come back and can answer any questions you might have. Right, so this is very obviously my favorite part of this program. I love talking just generally about tequila and cocktails in general. So let me walk you through some of these ingredients. I don't know why I changed the camera around. So we're obviously going to be using tequila, young tequila, white tequila, to make a cocktail. Very seldom would you use any other variety of tequila that has been distilled longer than probably the next variety, which would be reposado, for any kind of cocktail, unless you're maybe making kind of like a Mexican old fashioned, in which case you could use probably añejo for it. And even then, like, you probably wouldn't use your best añejo, right? Hi, Kathy. So Kathy's mentioning that we should email the recipes to the Zoom attendees. I'm pretty sure that we can do that, right? I'll even send, I have these kind of like printable versions of the ingredients. So I'll send that over and then you guys can get the email with it. Absolutely, totally doable. So let's see. We're going to continue talking about the recipes, talk about tequila, and then we're also going to be using limes just because any cocktail without limes and tequila would be incredibly short. We're also going to be using fresh orange juice. I got fresh squeezed orange juice right here. If you're hosting a party and you really don't want to get fresh orange juice, that's totally okay. It's a little bit expensive, but if it's just for you at home, why not splurge and really treat yourself? I have also some grapefruit juice that I fresh squeezed, which is all the way over here. In this case, I really try not to get a whole thing of grapefruit juice because, like, what do you really need so much grapefruit juice for? And sometimes I feel like the artificial stuff just really tastes kind of like very, very tart, whereas the fresh one tastes a lot sweeter. We're also going to be using grapefruit soda. So in Mexico, and specifically in southern Mexico, squirt is a big part of our lives. They're just like with Mexican Coke, for some reason, sodas in Mexico are just made with different types of sugar, and so they taste very different. Squirt is a big part along with Coke. And so in this case, we're going to be using squirt. Feel free to change it up to Fresca. Feel free to change it up to maybe the Jarritos brand also has a grapefruit flavor. So whichever you'd like. If you also just want to stick with the orange juice and the grapefruit juice and you want to use sparkling water, that's completely fine. If anything, you're probably going to get a pure version of it if you use sparkling water. We're going to be going kind of like the colloquial popular route, and we're going to be using squirt. It's a little different because we're using 0 sugar, but it doesn't matter. It's great anyway. And then we're also going to be using just orange wedges to garnish, salt, and ice. So with this specific cocktail, the cantarito, its name comes from the container that it is being served in. And so hopefully you've been to a Mexican restaurant where they have these containers. It literally just means water jug, like small water jug. The original word, the root word is cántaro, which just means water jug. And the original traditional size is like a gallon. And so these are clay containers that have been prepared on the inside so that they can safely kind of transport liquid. These were the original containers for water back in the day in Mexico. And so we just call them cántaros, and really just means water jug. And it's just become a cocktail in a lot of areas in Mexico, and specifically because it is tequila based. Of course, it's everywhere now. And in a lot of Mexican restaurants in the Chicago area, they have kind of like plastic versions of this container that you can keep or that you can kind of like travel with. And so in this case, I have this one that I bought just kind of like at a Mexican store in the area. As you can see, it has a loteria art design to it. It's really pretty. I have another one that has the moon. And they're just kind of like really, really beautiful things to have at home. Mexico is very well known for kind of like its clay and artisanal craft things for home, including just kind of like pans and pots. And they're just wonderful to have at home. Although if they break, they really break. So I'll talk a little bit about cantaritos that are a little bit more famous in Mexico. In fact, I'm actually going to get something that I forgot for a quick second. And if you have any questions, please send them over. It'll take me just a sec to get what I need to get. All right, so I have a bigger version of this cántaro right here. This one has a story behind it, and I can talk about it right after we make this cocktail. So let's get started. I'm going to get some ice because we need some ice here, some fresh ice. And this is just going to go directly into my cantaro. There's really no need to pre-mix it, because it's all just kind of a concoction of all the flavors, the fresh flavors that we have right here. The one thing that I always like to do is kind of like not really muddle, but mix some of that lime with the initial tequila, shot of tequila that we're putting in here, and some of the salt. Anytime I'm making a paloma, I'm pretty sure that people that know cantaritos probably already know what a paloma is. And a paloma is basically just tequila, usually grapefruit juice, and a little lime and salt. That's it. Obviously in tequila, right? It is probably the most popular cocktails at any Mexican home party, any Mexican wedding, anything to do with family. It's one of the easiest things to make, and we just switch the sparkling water for squirt, the sparkling water and the grapefruit juice for squirt, and it's ready to go. It's the easiest cocktail ever, and it's also one of my favorites. So I always like to add that lime juice with some salt before I add the tequila, and I feel like it just makes it better. I don't know, it might just be crazy. It makes sense in my head. So let me switch this around so you can see some of the measurements as I go. I'm actually going to bring up my camera just this image. There you go. So I'm adding 2.5 ounces of tequila blanco. Today I am cheating a little bit. I'm actually using mezcal. If anybody knows the difference between mezcal and tequila, I'm not sending you a price, but you'll get the price for the smartest person in this program. I'm adding 1 ounce, 2 ounces, 2.5 ounces of my mezcal in here. And I'm just using again this is just called a young version of mezcal, the young variety. It just really means that it's been distilled for less time than the rest of the varieties. And so mezcal is different than tequila in that tequila is actually a variety of mezcal. Mezcal is just any cocktail, any liquor, sorry, that has been made from the agave plant. It has to be 100% agave. Specifically in Mexico, it is made with the blue Weber agave plant. And as if you ever travel through Mexico and you specifically go through Jalisco, you will see that the blue Weber plant is everywhere. And tequila specifically is, contrary to popular belief, is actually not just grown and made in Jalisco. It is made in probably like 3 to 5 states in Mexico. And those are specifically the areas that it needs to come from. Just like champagne, there's a specific terroir that it needs to come from. With mezcal is it's the father, right, of very fancy tequila. Mezcal it's grown and made in a lot more places, in a lot more states, and it is also it is just barely beginning to grab onto people's attentions. It is also not supposed to have a worm, so if you ever find a mezcal that has a worm in it, stay away from it. It's actually it was just a marketing scheme to get people to drink it. Mezcal has had a very bad reputation for a very long time, and with it came the worm. It's very artisanal. It's very craft like. It's very craft. Its origins are very artisanal. So the whole worm thing, it was just kind of like a marketing thing to get people to, one, be afraid of it, and two, for it to have kind of like a bad fame. very specifically similar to, let's say, Malort in Chicago, except it doesn't taste like bile. So please try mezcal, give mezcal a try, specifically in cocktails like these, because they're going to have, it's going to augment the kind of like the smokiness of it. Mezcal is the only difference between mezcal and tequila in terms of palate and taste is that mezcal is not as distilled and it doesn't have that smoky flavor to it. Tequila has really been kind of glamorized in some ways, kind of like in terms of not having the flavors that it used to have. A lot of companies are adding a lot of additives that taste to make tequila taste sweeter, obviously for people to buy them more, and so it's kind of hiding some of the actually the citrus flavors of tequila. So mezcal still has all of that, and so it's a great way to kind of, if you don't have tequila at home, you can always use mezcal because tequila is mezcal. So it's a great substitute in this regard. We're going to be adding a third of a cup of our orange juice and a third of a cup of our grapefruit juice. And this is a big cocktail. If you feel like it's just way too much and you want to just have half of it, go ahead and maybe make one full of these and share one with a friend. There's another mezcal cocktail that I've taught in the past that's called tonají, and that's literally just orange juice and mezcal and a little bit of lime and some bug salts. Did somebody say bug? Yes, I said bug salt. We're going to be talking about bug salt in a second. And it's a great cocktail, also very summery. So as we are heading toward the end of summer here, it'll be a great cocktail to have on hand for those days when you just really need kind of like a little warm reminder that summer will eventually come back, right? Okay, so we're gonna mix our cocktail real quick. Our salt is already in there. We're going to be adding a little orange just to garnish. And so if you're not using, like the original OG container, you can always frost your glass with some tajin, which is that kind of like sugar, salt, spice, chili pepper flake, little container that we have in a lot of Mexican stores that has become super popular because you can even use it on the chicken. It's a great flavor to add to this specific cocktail, just because it already has that lemon flavor, that lime flavor, and the salt. So it's perfect. It's a perfect complement to this drink. So Cantaritos specifically have become very famous because this place called Cantaritos El Güero in Jalisco, just outside Guadalajara. This place is everywhere on Instagram. It's my Instagram. They make different sizes of the same drink. They use all fresh grapefruit, all fresh orange, all fresh lime juice, and they do it right in front of you. They cut all the oranges, all the grapefruits, they squeeze them all into this container of yours and then mix it all together. And this is the second to smallest container that you can get this drink in. So the small one is about half of this. This is the next one. The next one is about half gallon. And the biggest one is a gallon that you're supposed to share with friends and family. Obviously, people buy it, and sometimes the largest one gets 2 bottles of tequila poured right into it. And all of the bartenders at that restaurant, which is just an open area restaurant, and the chairs are all literally wooden, just trees that are halved. And that's what you sit on. And it's just a great place. It's a very visually appealing. And these containers, they make them right there, and they reuse whatever might get broken because it's clay and you can reuse it. And they just keep remaking all these things, and everything is fresh, and it's made that same day right in front of you. So if you're ever in Mexico, or if you're ever curious and you want to check out their Instagram, just look up Cantaritos El Güero, and you'll get a very good video as to what these guys do in Jalisco. So please try and look them up. They're amazing. The other thing that I wanted to bring up regarding our cocktail before we move on to making our chicken is that if you want to make this a mocktail, just leave out the tequila out of this. If you really want to be a very popular person and you want to show people something very different that a lot of your friends might not be familiar with, is the buck salt. So this buck salt is made out of salt, obviously, but also of the bugs that live in the agave plant. So since they live off of the plant, they also have the flavor of the plant in them. Obviously, there's no alcohol in it. And so if you ever want to freak out the kids that come to your family parties, by telling them by asking them if they want to eat some bugs, this is a very quick way of freaking them out. And if you just want to, if you want to get kind of like a gauge on family and friends as to what they might be interested in, this might be also a good idea. And it's also just a good idea so that if people are interested in trying mezcal or tequila for the first time, they can definitely taste it by trying out some bugs. Like, why not, right? If they're already getting into if they think they know how to drink, this is going to really shake them up. So feel free to try it. This one is a little bit, the grain is a little heavier than other salts. I'm just gonna put a little bit on an orange wedge so y'all can see what it looks like. Traditionally with mezcal, this is the kind of thing that goes with your shot. It is not a lime and it's not salt. It is buck salt and orange. So it is very complementary to the smokiness of a mezcal. So if you're really adventurous and want to try it, please try it. This specifically is it's more expensive, but there are bags of salt that you can buy for like $3, and they're actually very high quality. All right, so yes, I just ate the buck salt, by the way. We're gonna switch it up because I think it's been 20 minutes since we've talked to our chicken, and I think it's been marinating. Oh, it is so salty. We're gonna move over. I'm gonna make some space for this chicken that's gonna come back into our lives. If anybody has any questions about this cocktail, I gotta get a sip. Please send them over. If you want any substitutions for any of the ingredients that we just mentioned right now, please send us your questions.
Karla, I have a question. How good was that sip?
It was amazing. So I had just had some of that bug salt. It was really salty. And then because the flavors are they go together. So it just felt like it was the same thing, but in liquid form. Plus, of course, I got a boost from that mezcal. So if anybody's having a drink right now, please share what you're drinking with us. It cannot just be water. Because it's Thursday and the week is almost over, at least for most of us. I know some people work weekends. But if you're having a drink, let us know what you're drinking. I'm gonna start the fire right behind me. And then I'm gonna get our chicken. The chicken obviously is not gonna change a lot. And so the texture is gonna be pretty much the same. The only difference is that it's going to take some of the color from that sauce. The one curious thing about this program that happened maybe twice is that my ingredients, I don't add tortillas into the ingredients just because my Mexican self thinks that if you're having tacos, of course, you're also buying tortillas, right? Buy tortillas, buy whichever tortillas you feel like having. I'm sorry, Sunita, I didn't see your comment. Can you write the name of the salt Sure, so the picture is called Cantarito. I'm just going to stretch. My computer is really far away from me. Cantarito, and it's actually the name of the recipe. So at the very top of the recipe on the chat, that's the name of the container, and then the name of the salt is mezcal bug salt. They don't really have a different name. Some bugs in Mexico, they do have different names, and they don't change their name actually when they become part of a recipe. I'm adding some olive oil into my pan. So like, for example, there's a recipe for a specific sauce that they make, I think in northern states of Mexico, with the bugs that are called humiles. And I think they almost look like roly-polies, but they're only added onto the sauce that goes specifically what would be like Mexican barbecue, but it's called barbacoa, and it's also lamb-based, and it's amazing, but it is only added to that sauce. It's not added to any other dish, it's just added to the actual sauce. Before my olive oil starts to smoke, let me get the chicken out. All right, so I'm gonna try in the most elegant way to move my camera so y'all can see what, actually I'm gonna keep it the same because I wanna show you guys that the pickled onion portion, I'm actually going to get half of my onion into this chicken. So I'm gonna put this in the pan. I'm gonna turn around. But again, if you have any more questions, please let us know. All right, so there goes our chicken. I'm adding half of these red onions onto this. Okay. I don't know if anybody is like me where anytime they get something on their hands when they're cooking, I have to put it under water and rinse it off. I know some people just use towels, but for some reason I just have to put water. Sunita, thanks for another question. Can we use regular glass for tequila? You absolutely can. You don't have to use this container. This is just me being extra and kind of like showing you what the kind of like the most traditional version of this cocktail would be in. Use whatever you'd like. The whole idea behind it is to kind of like mix those flavors all together. I kind of wanted to show you what it looked like before you put it in the cantaro, because the cantarito also doesn't show you what it looks like, but it really is just like orange. It's really not that exciting. So yeah, feel free to use any container that you like. If you're having a party and you want to make a ton of these because they're super fresh, you can just put everything together except tequila, and then just have the tequila bottle aside for any adults that want to just spike it. It's kind of like a great recipe for parties. It's almost kind of like having a punch without the alcohol, so people can actually control the amount of alcohol that they're drinking. It's a great idea for a party. So I'm adding salt now, just because I'm kind of like one of those believers in like adding salt as you go. Whenever I'm also making kind of like a salsa, that's kind of like when I would add the salt afterward. And so we're gonna let our chicken cook. I'm just gonna leave it alone. set my temp just a little bit so that we can actually finish this on time. I've had other classes where I finished just kind of like 5 minutes over. So I'm gonna try to end it on time, y'all. We're gonna do this today. All right, so for this really quick pickled onion, I don't see actually. So I have, I wanted to leave my camera up here so you can see what it looks like right now. I'm adding about the juice of 1 lime onto this. As you can see, it's actually not a ton of red onion. But this is just going to be a garnish for your tacos. Also, I believe it's more than a garnish. It really complements the tacos a lot. I'm going to be putting in that juice. And what you really want to do if you're making kind of a lot of this, really want it as a garnish for your tacos for maybe like, let's say 6 people. What you want to do is kind of like cover the onion in that lime juice. You can see I'm really not very careful about these seeds, but if you feel better kind of taking out the seeds before it, definitely kind of strain those out. And so I'm just gonna pop this super quick, 30 seconds in the microwave, and I'm gonna let it rest while the chicken finishes cooking. I'm gonna put on my comal, the pan that we usually use for heating up tortillas. I just used regular tortillas. I'll show you the brand that I use. You can use flour, you can use corn. I know that I've seen at different stores, they even have spinach tortillas. If you even just want to have the chicken on a salad, you can definitely do that, and maybe some fresh red onion. If you really want to kind of take down the amount of acidity in the onion, you can always run it under cold water in a strainer for about like 2 minutes. It'll definitely take the kick out of that, the spiciness out of that onion. So feel free to try this protein any way you'd like. It's just marinated. It has great flavors. It's the best thing for summer, really. Although if you're feeling very Hispanic like I am, starting September 15th and finishing October 16th, go ahead and try it, right? All right, so our chicken's definitely doing its thing. Our onion is tenderizing. Wanted to check it one more time before I walk away from it. I'm gonna pop this in the microwave for 30 seconds. You're gonna hear the racket of the microwave. Everything's good though. So I will be using just El Milagro corn tortillas. They're my go-to. They're local. The freshest, best possible option for tortillas is to make them yourself, but who has time for that? They are delicious. They are amazing. If you find a place near you that sells them fresh, you can buy like a pound of tortillas and take them home just before dinner. Definitely go for it. If you want to feel very adventurous and you want to make your own tortillas, absolutely try it. So you can definitely try different options here. We're definitely using raw chicken. So you would definitely use other meat options that are also raw in order to marinate it. If you wanted to, like, let's say, grill your chicken before and have the sauce, specifically the sauce that you can buy at the store that's already in sauce form, you can definitely do it. I probably wouldn't recommend putting that raw marinade in with the, like, after you cook the chicken. Just because I do think that marinade needs to be cooked. The other thing that I did not answer, and I'm sorry, Sunita, but that's actually a great question. Another option, if you wanted a vegetarian option, to this is, I always say cauliflower. I feel like cauliflower is a great substitute for chicken. I know it's like very, very popular right now to do kind of like the cauliflower wing. Especially the buffalo wing, kind of like the breaded cauliflower. In this case, it's still a pretty good option, especially if you're cutting them to small sizes and marinating in that same sauce. I think it's a great vegetarian option. Okay, so I'm gonna get my onion so y'all can see what it looks like. It is gorgeous once it's kind of set. So I'm gonna leave it aside just while it continues to pickle. And just while I continue to cook this chicken. Does anybody have any other questions regarding this recipe? Since we're almost coming to a close, I think I'll be done by 8 o'clock. Oh my God. Our chicken is done, so we'll just wait for our tortilla to put this all together. It's done. So yes, if you have fresh pineapple, go ahead and use it. That is the one thing that I always forget to add at the end of these programs. I brought back my handy pineapple right here. Obviously, if you're using fresh pineapple, it is so much better. I have my tortilla right here. I'm gonna add some chicken onto it. Let me just turn this camera around so y'all can stop. So you can see me stop salivating, and you can see what we've made tonight. So here is our tool. We're going to be adding just some pieces of pineapple. So normally you would also add onion and cilantro onto this. We already have that onion embedded with our chicken. So that's that. This is our beautiful, beautiful onion and turns into a gorgeous pink color. And the onion already has that. It's already taken out some of its juices and some of its flavor onto that lime juice in there. And so I would normally check the chicken doneness with a thermometer, of course. I kind of already know what this looks like just because I've made it so many times that I can kind of gauge what the texture once I'm like turning it over. But definitely use the thermometer just to make sure that it is completely cooked. Especially since they are smaller pieces of chicken, I feel like I can gauge it a little better than normal, especially if you're cooking kind of like a whole breast. So yeah, feel totally use your thermometer to check the chicken doneness. It's super quick. These are very small pieces, so I feel like they don't need as much cooking time as like a bigger piece of chicken. So there is our taco. We're just gonna add a little bit of lime juice onto it. And here are our recipes for tonight. Some beautiful citrusy flavors here. I don't want to eat in front of you guys because it's because I think I'm just gonna like just put this in my face, and I don't want to do that to y'all. If you guys don't have any further questions, I'm really glad that everybody showed up. I'm hoping that you will get adventurous to try out this recipe, or even the some of the flavors, other flavors that we tried today. And if you guys try the bug salt, please let me know. I really want to know the effect that I'm making with these programs. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Karla, thank you so much. I am absolutely starving now, and I ate before the program started. I'm like about to get in my car and go to one of like the small, like open all night Mexican places where you can get the good stuff that are near me. Like I'm ready to go out and like I'm starving. This was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this, and all the history and the culture stuff behind it as well. That was such a treat, especially because we had a bunch of programs to celebrate this month. Oh my gosh, apparently it is also the end of the month for me. Still cannot speak, but thank you so much. It looks like one of our patrons would like you to come back and make a Mexican salad.
Of course, yeah. I think it would be interesting to do a Mexican salad. The other day I just found that my mom has been making this salad that I didn't know was actually kind of famous. I had completely forgotten about it. And it came up not that long ago, and I was like, oh my God, it just, like those memories where you get like the flavors and everything, it just came back. But yeah, it would be really interesting to do a Mexican salad, especially where you can add a protein like this or like some sort of citrus to it. Absolutely.
Yeah. If there's no other questions from any of our patrons, I want to be respectful to the fact that I know Karla is dying to shove an entire delicious treat in her face. And I'm sure you all want to go and do something similar, just like I do right now. So Karla, thank you so much for being with us this evening. And thank you guys as well. It's always a treat to spend my evening with you and to learn something new and to experience new things. I feel like I can smell it. I think maybe I'm going crazy at this point. Oh, you know what? I have one quick question for you before we sign off. Karla, do you have a tip to getting what was it that stains your clothes, that red?
I think I threw it. Yeah.
Do you have a tip to get it out of your clothes if you get it in your clothes?
You know what? I'm not sure. I guess baking soda is always good.
That's one of my go-tos.
Yeah, baking soda and vinegar are also great. I love baking soda in general, like you said, everywhere. So I think
I have a giant bag of baking soda in my house for cleaning and cooking and getting stains out, like all of it.
Yeah.
And vinegar, same thing, giant jug. I use it for cooking, for cleaning. I make my own multi-purpose sprays with it. It is like a super.
Yeah, both of those are just all around winners. So yeah, definitely baking soda for that. And obviously it's kind of like an organic thing. So it's like, if you treat it right away, it's not going to stain completely. But yeah, I mean, if you just happen to get it on your clothes, for us in Mexico, it was always kind of like, oh, it'll be a good memory in the future. It was a great dinner, like it's just like, those are just those things that happen in between, like with families that it just becomes like your family culture,
Totally. What was I gonna say? Do you, in terms of staining, like Tupperware, any container, I know with spaghetti sauce, you can use olive oil just on a piece of paper towel to wipe it down and it pulls the tomato stain out. Would the same rule apply for getting this out of Tupperware?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I have used this. I have used just regular plastic containers to store this once I'm done with it. And yeah, the same thing works. It's very tomatoey, like it has those same colors. So yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. All right, Karla. Well, I'm gonna let you enjoy your late night snack. And I'm gonna let the rest of you guys enjoy your